On Monday, Armenia's election campaign officially began ahead of snap parliamentary elections that are planned for June 20th. Electronic voting ran from Friday to Sunday. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan was forced to announce the election in the wake of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict last year, which is expected to dominate the campaign. The fighting resulted in 6,000 deaths and 75,000 ethnic Armenians displaced from the territory by Azeri troops, ending with a Russian-brokered ceasefire in November.
Peace can't be achieved through the unilateral actions of Armenia, because we will be able to have real peace if Azerbaijan reciprocate Armenians' efforts.
In addition to settling Pashinyan's political fate, in the short to medium term, the outcome of the elections will determine how Yerevan will approach bilateral relations with Azerbaijan. If Pashinyan and his governing My Step alliance hold on to power, Yerevan will likely take a more conciliatory approach to Azeri relations, emphasizing diplomacy and multilateral negotiations in order to avoid resuming military hostilities. Polls show that Pashinyan is currently ahead, but will face the greatest challenge to his rule from ex-president Robert Kacharian, who heads the nationalist Armenia Alliance. Results from June 5th showed them at 22.4% and 20.6% respectively, but with Kacharian gaining support more quickly. An opposition victory could also see Armenia grow closer to the Kremlin to bolster their security partnership, leading to a military buildup that could easily reignite tensions across the border in contested territory. This week, Kenyan Treasury Secretary Ukur Yatani unveiled the country's biggest budget yet, totaling $33 billion. The budget includes a $250 million post-COVID-19 economic recovery fund and $130 million to support vaccination efforts. However, Nairobi is strapped for cash and will fall into the red with a deficit of $8.3 billion. Expect the government to combat this issue through raising taxes on consumer goods in combination with seeking loans from organizations like the IMF. Unfortunately for Kenyans, a reliance on the IMF means rising public debt on top of the existing $67 billion of tax burdens. However, Nairobi's recent hiring of a new sovereign debt advisor hopes to maximize Kenya's Eurobond ventures, from which they hope to raise $7.4 billion. On Friday, leaders of the G7, in addition to South Korea, Australia, and South Africa, gathered in Cornwall, England for their annual summit. The summit was dominated by the issues of post-pandemic economic recovery, responding to authoritarian aggression, and sustainable growth in the face of climate change. With a revised American environmental stance from President Joe Biden, this was the first G7 summit in which every member committed to achieving net zero emissions by 2050. G7 leaders discussed whether to fund the Clean Green Initiative, which hopes to rival China's Belt and Road Initiative by funding sustainable infrastructure in developing nations.
As leaders of the G7, we not only have the responsibility to ensure our own citizens are safe and have good jobs and a bright future, we have the power to help make this a reality for people around the world.
Regarding economic policy, G7 finance ministers have reached a monumental agreement that targets wealthy multinationals, which would establish a universal minimum corporate tax rate and make it harder for multinationals to hide assets in tax havens.